Hi everyone, my name is Mala, and in this video I'm following up from a previous video I made about tensions of using generative AI for social good. I'll cover two more tensions. You'll need at least a basic knowledge of AI to follow along. At the time of filming this video, I'm the Director of Program Management AI Safety at ML Commons. I'm also the former Director of Tech for Social Good at the software company GitHub, and I have a decade of experience working for various specialized agencies of the United Nations. As always, I have a few disclaimers. First, the opinions expressed in this video are strictly my personal views, not that of current, past, or future employers. Second, this video is for informational purposes only. And third, AI tooling, models, and markets are changing pretty much daily, and therefore some of what I say may be outdated by the time you view this. The first tension involves an idea called factuality, which refers to factual accuracy. By now, you've probably heard the term hallucination, which in AI basically means making something up. Gen AI uses predictive modeling to generate text, images, audio, or video based on what was inputted. Sometimes generated text responses are well phrased or asserted enough that a user believes a false statement is true. Perplexity, a RAG-based system, provides citations to allow the user to investigate and figure out if the generated text is true. Many other Gen AI tools do not. There are various mitigation efforts underway, such as tools like Simple QA from OpenAI, which is a factuality benchmark, but those are still in their infancy and are for limited use cases. Why does this idea of factuality matter so much in AI for social good solutions? The scenario I use to illustrate why factuality is so important is a hypothetical we can all relate to. What if ChatGPT had been available during COVID lockdowns? When I was at GitHub, I collaborated with the World Health Organization for 3 years on COVID-related work. And one of the most common questions that came up was, is it safe to socialize with people outside of my household? Now, back in 2020 and 2021, most people would answer that question with a Google search or by asking a doctor on the phone, or even with a WhatsApp message to a trusted friend. But imagine if people had the option to ask ChatGPT that question. Now, we know from decades of research that when people use the given technology to get information, they do so for a combination of convenience, necessity, and accuracy. So it would be reasonable for a user to expect a straightforward yes or no answer to that question. Yes, it's safe for you to socialize with people outside of your household, or no, you should avoid socializing with people who don't live with you. Similarly, if public health practitioners had used a Gen AI tool to decide who could have safely socialized with others, the goal would have been to get back a clear and succinct answer that was easy to communicate. However, there were a lot of factors to consider when answering whether it was safe for someone to socialize with people outside of their household. Some factors were, did the user have any relevant pre-existing conditions like a respiratory disease, an autoimmune disease, or cancer? What were the case fatality and morbidity rates where the user was based? How good was COVID patient care that was accessible to the user? Were mask mandates in place and were people actually following them? Had the user had COVID before? Was the user vaccinated against COVID? If so, when and how many doses? And with who and in what ways did the user want to socialize? So in order to respond with a yes or no answer to the user's question, the Gen AI tool would have needed to consider these factors, which would have required knowing where the user was based and their medical history. That involves geolocation or some kind of telemetry or additional interactions with the user to figure out where they were, protecting private patient data, and pulling data from local public health sources. That's a lot, and that's more than a large language model can tell you on its own. In addition to the LLM, you need to fine-tune or maybe build a RAG system connected to multiple databases, and you would need a tool connected to the internet. Some subscription services provide some of those things, but the rest would need to be configured, tested, and deployed. The approach many Gen AI companies have taken in comparable scenarios is to avoid answering the user's question directly and instead list the factors to consider, like the ones I mentioned earlier, pre-existing conditions, and so on. Listing those factors to consider is factually accurate, but not super useful since that info could be found on a web page or in a pamphlet from WHO or a National Center for Disease Control. So then the question is whether it's worth the time, effort, money, and energy to set up a Gen AI tool that's essentially regenerating information that can be found elsewhere online. Considering Gen AI tools' propensity to hallucinate, deploying an AI solution may therefore introduce more factuality risks than benefits. The second tension is a bit harder to describe, but I'm going to try anyway because it's a conversation I've been having a lot lately. So I've been working in tech for social good / tech for international development for more than 15 years. I'm an expert in UX research and design and open source software for social good. Throughout my career, I've also worked with GIS and other mapping software, mobile app development, cloud computing, and many other types of digital tech that overlap. Now, I've talked to dozens of colleagues who, like me, have had to shift their tech for social good career to focus on AI and ML, and we all agree that this feels different. If I had to identify why it feels different working in AI and ML, it's because these technologies currently involve training the machine more than training humans. What exactly does that mean? More than a decade ago, one of my first full-time jobs out of grad school was as a program officer on a specialized initiative out of the UN World Food Program called the African Risk Capacity. One of the things I did was to help redesign our software interface. I had noticed during the trips I took that we were asking government officials to make big budgetary decisions based on our software, but the old user interface was confusing. Users couldn't understand what they were seeing and therefore what they were deciding. So I created and ran a series of tests to help redesign the interface, and it worked. After we relaunched with the new interface, those same officials were much more confident in their decisions. This work started me in nearly a decade of UX research and design for social good. I've used UXR methods to design an app to increase youth engagement in local politics in Mali, to prioritize work streams in maternal mortality projects in Burundi and Ghana, to help UN researchers make more evidence-based decisions, and more. Likewise, the work I did at GitHub and open source software for social good was entirely based on real human inputs to identify challenges and opportunities, strengthen digital public goods, and create the first OSPO in the UN system, and help civil society use GitHub's standardized metrics to inform their work, among many other things. All of that work involved building or strengthening technology to help humans help other humans. The tension now is that many AI and ML technologies are so complicated and so dense that before we even get to figure out if and how they can help human development outcomes, we need to spend a lot of time, quote, training the machine. Let's go back to that same example in the previous section. What if ChatGPT had been around during COVID lockdowns? Before doing anything else, there would be considerable training work to check for and mitigate biases, improve factuality, and evaluate the risk or safety of responses. Then we could get to more human aspects of deploying the tool, such as building an intuitive interface, optimizing for the types of devices users have, adapting the tool to the user's workflow, and testing for internet connectivity where the users are located. Training the machine is not cheap, easy, or straightforward. In fact, in many cases, it's more expensive and less accurate to train the machine than it is to train humans to do the same task. While this cost balance may shift as AI and ML industries mature, it's perfectly reasonable if organizations opt to wait to deploy AI tools. And frankly, it's perfectly reasonable to not love or be passionate about training the machine when you got into tech to help human development outcomes. So that's it for me on more tensions in using AI for social good. Before I leave, I should note that I am now open to full-time and part-time jobs, and I'm currently accepting speaking requests. If you're interested in working together, please reach out at malakumarconsulting@gmail.com or on LinkedIn. You can find more info about my work at malakumar.com. And lastly, if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.